Uranus and the Sun meet tomorrow, May the 9th, 2023. And I'm just going to do a quick video to talk about it in detail and why I think this Sun conjunction with Uranus is particularly magical. The Sun and Uranus meet every year. I was about today old when I realized that they always meet when as Uranus is at the point where he stationed retrograde the previous year. At least that's how it's been in the last few years. I've looked back a few years. So last year on, oh my goodness, the things you find out as you work with astrology over time, you cannot learn it all at once, I have to tell you. And that's why I love it, because I learn new things every day. But last year, Uranus stationed retrograde at 18 degrees 55 minutes of Taurus. And then Uranus was retrograde until, where's my 23 retrogrades? Here they are. Uranus was retrograde until January the 22nd, 2023, when he stationed direct at 14 degrees 56 minutes of Taurus. Now, since January the 22nd, Uranus has been what you might say in shadow of his retrograde, but we can't call it that, because these slower moving planets go retrograde every year. If we talked about the shadow, the way, and I'm not even convinced I believe in shadow with Mercury retrograde, then it implies that the retrograde is still happening. But what is actually happening is that since Uranus stationed direct in January of this year, he's been retracing his steps. He's been covering ground that he had covered before twice. So a planet, from our perspective, of course, planets don't go backwards at all. So let me share the chart with you a little bit. So here's the conjunction tomorrow, but I'm actually just going to take you back a little bit and show you. So Uranus has an 84-year cycle, pretty regular as clockwork. Everybody has a Uranus square at age 21, and then has a Uranus opposition at age 42, and then another Uranus square at age 63. It'll be me this year, by the way. So you can see, oh, I'm on Neptune. Oh, good heavens, help if I did the right planet. You can see that Uranus stationed direct on January the 22nd at 14 degrees 56 minutes of Taurus right here, and was conjunct the North Node. And then Uranus stationed retrograde last year on August the 24th at the point he's at today. So Uranus, as I record this on May the 8th, 2023. So Uranus stationed retrograde at 18 degrees 55 minutes. And it was quite the impactful retrograde this time. Like I said, goes retrograde every year because he's kind of been tracking with the North Node. And Uranus is the planet of awakening, of rebellious. He's the benevolent rebel. He's the planet of surprise and shocks and aha light bulb moments and awakenings and innovation. Uranus is kind of Promethean. Prometheus brought fire to the humans. It's kind of this lightning bolt of awareness coming from the skies is Uranus. Some astrologers liken it to the higher mind. It's very inventive. It's kind of pulling out these threads from the cosmos and bringing them in. But we get back to today. So that's where Uranus has been going. He went all the way back to 14 degrees where he'd already been, and then then since January he's been traveling from 14 to 18 degrees. Incidentally, 14 degrees was the place where he stationed retrograde the previous year. So he kind of travels about 4 years every between all these periods. Well, now Uranus is going to be treading new ground for the first time in 84 years. Okay, because he has an 84-year cycle. So tomorrow, when the Sun and Uranus meet at 1856, he's 1 minute into new ground for the first time for 84 years. Now, that in itself is not that spectacular, really, because, as I said, Uranus does this every year. But it's always a special day because the Sun is our core organizing principle of our cosmos. And that means he's the light of the core of our galaxy, our solar system, is well, our solar system, actually, because the galactic center is at the center of our galaxy, but the center of our solar system, the core energy, our solar system's ego, if you like. It is the core organizing principle around which all the planets travel, is shining the big old light on Uranus, and Uranus is kind of way out there. And it's the start of a new cycle. The next time they'll meet, just to show you, is on May the 13th next year, 2024. And by that point, Uranus will have moved just over 4 degrees to 23 degrees and 6 minutes. And then the year after, in Taurus, will have moved to 27 degrees. So as you can see, it's about 4 degrees every time this new cycle. Until in May 2026, Uranus will have moved into Gemini, and that's going to be a big shift. But let's get back to the current one. Now, this is activating this new cycle. Uranus kind of blowing the doors open to new ground. I'm going to read you the symbols for this degree at the end. And before I forget, I always forget, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. I'm going to be doing more of these shorter, more pop-up kind of videos as well as my new and full moon forecasts. But I want to tell you that this is really going to be quite the cycle. This is a major year anyway. Not only do we have an ongoing Pluto-Haumea square that is the aspect of the decade, I've written about that. Pluto and Haumea, the planet of transformation, Pluto, and the planet of creation, birth, Haumea, squaring each other 13 times in this decade. We also have various other things. We're going to have Pluto squaring the nodes in July, but we're also going to have a Venus retrograde coming up in July as well. As Pluto squares the nodes, Venus is going to station retrograde over here at 28 Leo. But then Venus will meet the Sun in the middle of the retrograde at 20 Leo. And that's the first time that's happened in a retrograde in 8 years. Big deal, you say. Well, look at this. 18 degrees 56 is square to 20 degrees of Leo. Or by, it's not an exact square, but it's a square. They're working in tandem. So if I can take you so that you can see this is starting this big, ginormous change this year with all these planets working in tandem to bring us into the new paradigm. On August the 13th, the Sun and Venus meet over here. And by that point, Uranus will have gone to 22 degrees of Taurus. So it's square to this. This is close enough to be a square. And then Uranus will turn retrograde again shortly afterwards and go back and square that new Venus star point. So this Uranus Sun new cycle is intimately tied to this breaking of new ground and creating of new ground. And there's even more, because Venus is, Taurus, the sign that Uranus is in, is a Venus sign. So our values are being awakened. We are, you know, all the things we've been working on with the North Node in Taurus, sustainability, getting really connected to the material world and our humanity and the actual earth. When I say the material world, I'm not talking about greed and money. I'm talking about things that have real value, our core values, what we value. It's being awakened in so many ways. And this square between, I'm just going to get it back to today, actually, so that we can see where we're at today. This square between the Venus retrograde and this new Uranus cycle, and then the next Uranus retrograde, because he's going to go back and square that Venus star point over and over again, is working in tandem in these fixed signs of Taurus and Leo. And this is all about making things manifest. There are other aspects I could look at, by the way, but to cut a long story short, and maybe I'll actually kind of get rid of this and just talk to you. So to cut a long story short, this Taurus Leo square and dance and energy, as Pluto is also moving back and forth into Aquarius, which is a fixed sign. Fixed signs make things real. They make things manifest. Cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, they initiate the change. But then the fixed signs come in and say, it's time to kind of create the thing, make it, fix it, make it solid, make it real. And so that's what's happening here. We're not done with the cardinal signs. Pluto's going back and forth into Capricorn the next couple of years. But this Sun Uranus awakening, cutting new ground for the first time in 84 years, combined with this Venus star point in the summer. So check out my Venus class. It's I love my Venus retrograde heroine's journey class anyway, which is more of a shamanic healing experience guided by the astrology. But this one is just off the charts, to be quite honest. Partly because the Venus star point is on my Uranus, so and lots of other things. But anyway, you get the idea. This is breaking new ground. This is awakening us to something new, all right? And then the way the cycle goes is that the Uranus-Sun conjunctions, the annual ones that slowly move through the zodiac, will kind of connect with the Venus star points at some point, but not for a long time. But anyway, let me pull a card. I want to pull one card. Incidentally, the Sun Uranus conjunction, especially in the sign of Taurus, is really one of awakening to core values, as I said, and what you value. People who are born with it will have really strong ideas about, and revolutionary ideas around what they value and what our core values should be and what's sustainable. And because Taurus, to my mind, is the most earthly of signs, they have the potential to be real kind of eco-warrior kind of people, or science people working on ecology and so on and so forth. Potential, I say. We don't always feel potential, and the whole chart has to apply. But all right, so let's pull one card, then I'm going to read the symbols. All right, well, I love this. I've got the Seeker of Torches. So it's fire, even though, and Uranus has that Promethean energy, if you remember, the god who brought the fire down to humans and then was suffered and tortured for it. Okay. It's actually the guy who wrote Cosmos and Psyche, whose name is escaping me right now because I'm having one of those days. He said Uranus should have been named Prometheus, but I always think of it as a lightning bolt anyway, so both fit. So anyway, I'm going to read you just from the book about these cards. This is the Red Seeds Tarot, which we'll be using in the Venus retrograde class. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. And that's by Plutarch. So in the soul journey, the seeker of torches is the youth of the hearth. So it's looking for that new information. Uranus is like I said, the aha moment, the new ideas. It's like the new information coming in. So here sits a youthful energy full of vitality and verve. If a journey inner or outer beckons us, be assured it will be bringing a time of adventure, creativity, and enthusiasm into our lives. This seeker describes a carefree, confident soul who is often restless and needs the feeling of freedom in their life. This youthful energy would be wise to not become overinflated, as there is so much still to learn. Excitement rises as we probably can consider a variety of possibilities. Hopefully, grace will be remembered too. The seeker will never live a vicarious life and always wants to live their life to the absolute full. Carpe diem, seize the day, is the energy of this Sun-Uranus conjunction, especially if you have planets or angles around 18 degrees of the fixed signs. If, like me, you're around the age 63, I'd say around 61 to, or maybe 62 to end of 63, you'll be having a Uranus square. If you're about age 42, this is your Uranus opposition. And everything is kind of being awakened in us, but everybody is kind of awakened on this day. It's kind of an exciting one. So I'm going to read the Chandra symbol first for this degree. A crown turns into goat horns. A remarkable instinct for the next lesson, finding it, learning it, and drawing everything out of it that you can. Specialized in destiny activation and interested in nothing else. Purposefully driven to take up karmic lessons all the way. Wildly given over to what is taken on, working the territory as hard as you can, making way for something new by wearing out the old, assigned to tough situations, yet knowing it is appropriate, super strong and especially tenacious and relentless. In deepest essence, sacrificing yourself so that something can happen here that is going to take a lot of doing. And inside it all, you are curiously resigned to whatever arises, not very concerned because long-range results mean everything here. And a moment's or a lifetime's discomfort is a small price to pay when destiny is truly involved. So it's got that energy of possibility, all right. To go back to the tarot again, I'm not pulling a card, but the Uranus card is the Fool. So on this Sun-Uranus day, it's always a great day to ask, what else is possible here that I'm not seeing? It's just this air of potentiality. But I love the Sabian symbol for this degree. I remember it when Uranus stationed retrograde, and now Uranus has been back and covered over some old ground since last year, and now is back where he started when he stationed retrograde. And listen to this one. A new continent rising out of the ocean. A surge of new potentiality after the crisis. So Rudyard said, the symbol need hardly be commented upon. When the mind has been emptied and light has been called upon to purify the consciousness, Freed from its attachment and contaminations, a new release of life can emerge out of the infinite ocean of potentiality, the virgin space. What will it be used for? And then he goes, he says, the technique is to allow the infinite potential to operate in unconstrained spontaneity. This means to have reached a state in which the conscious, rational ego is no longer a controlling factor. So this is really about open your mind, what's possible, allow those lightning bolts of consciousness or fire to come in and creation. And I really do think this is another step in the creation of the new paradigm. I've got so much hope coming about, but of course we're not out of, you know, what the crazy yet. We're still in this crisis period in humanity, but I think we're coming out of it personally, slowly, of course. So don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.